You're watching Well Traveled Life with Jonathan and Jennifer, and we are in Western Australia in the Kimberley region in the city of Broome. Broome is a coastal city located in Western Australia in the Kimberley, which is the northernmost of the 9 regions that make up Australia. The cruise port in Broome is in a shared cargo port, so guests are not allowed to walk in the port area. Therefore, a free shuttle will collect guests, take them down the pier and into town, which is about 6 miles or 15 minutes away. The drop-off and pickup point is in Chinatown, next to the Tourist Information Center. Known for having some of the highest quality pearls in the world, there is a street of pearls with shops right along the border of Chinatown. Broome is less about the city and more about the experiences, though. And they are so diverse. Whether it's a camel ride on Cable Beach at sunset, walking through dinosaur history in Gantham Point, an area with more dinosaur tracks than anywhere in the world, or flying or boating over the Horizontal Waterfalls, Broome is a land of rugged geography and jaw-dropping scenery. Cable Beach is a 22-mile stretch of white sand, but before you jump in the water, check with the lifeguards on duty, ask about current conditions regarding jellyfish and tides. Roebuck Bay, with its turquoise waters and red earth, is home to pods of dolphins who live there permanently. Depending on the time of year that you're there, you may also find humpback whales on their migration path. Narlegia and other indigenous tour operators will take you to the mangroves and mudflats to explore and share the storytelling culture that their history and connection to the land is built upon. In the 1880s, the region burgeoned with the pearl diving industry, and they eventually were supplying the majority of the buttons for the world from pearls from this area. But with the invention of plastic, natural pearls were replaced with cultured pearls, which were grown for jewelry. The extreme tidal conditions in the area produce exceptional pearls, and pearl farms offer an opportunity to see the history, production, and grading of the only gem on earth created by an animal. For me, the highlight of Broome was flying over the savanna of the Kimberley, over Buccaneer Bay, and the Horizontal Waterfalls, where the 30-meter tides come in and go out with such strength and force that they create waterfalls between the islands in the bay. With over 1,000 islands in the archipelago, the only way to see them is from air or boat. There are no roads actually within the archipelago, although you can get to bays surrounding it. So a flight over it and then take a boat to go through the falls. The water flow and pressure is so immense that there are only certain passages that can be safely navigated by very specialized boats driven by qualified guides. We landed in Lombardina and drove to Scenic Bay. We had a fresh fish lunch and a tour of the Scenic Bay Pearl Factory. The Scenic Bay Pearl Farm is also an eco-resort, featuring permanent tent-style cabins with plumbing and electricity, air conditioning, and composting toilets. A restaurant, a swimming pool, and a host of activities that you can participate in daily. from indigenous experiences to flights, boats, pearl farming, and other water activities. Although it was a Japanese man who discovered pearls, the Australians, especially in this area, were quick to catch on. They immediately recognized they had larger and more beautiful pearls and oysters than their competitors. But these were natural pearls, not the cultured variety that they were growing in Japan. Australia actually outlawed cultured pearls at the time and became the purveyor of buttons around the world.
But our Signet Bay story begins with this man. So this is Dean Brown. So in 1946, he sailed in a wooden lugger up the coast from Fremantle, and he ended up here at the Dampier Peninsula. And the reason he set his sights on this region in particular is because he heard the fortunes many were making within the mother of pearl shell fishing industry, and he wanted a slice of the pie. But not too long after he got here, plastic was introduced. And of course nowadays, buttons are mostly made out of plastic, as we all know, which is a bit of a shame. So not great news for Dean, but it was actually seen as quite bittersweet in Australia because it was no longer seen as a threat to culture pearls, so they lifted the ban. They said if you want to, you can culture pearls.
Diving was primitive at that point, though, and the mortality rate for divers was over 50%.
They'd be down there all day long. And this man here, he acts as their tender. He could be supplying them with oxygen, but also leading them along with a rope as well too, just in case they got disorientated. But it wasn't the safest industry at this point. A lot of people did suffer from the bends and pass away. So in Broome, there's actually quite a few cemeteries that are dedicated to the fallen divers.
Australia has such a long history with the indigenous people, and they have such a strong culture of connection to the earth. So it's interesting to see how that is continued with the pearl industry.
Paying respects to the past, present and future elders of this region. They've been here, roaming the land, living here for 60,000 years. Ridgy, all right? So up here in the Dampier Peninsula, there's no didgeridoos, there's no boomerangs. It's completely different scope, okay? It's all about telling stories through this shell. So this ridgy here is an art ridgy, so you're more than welcome to touch it, but usually it's only to be handled by men.
The farming and the harvesting of the pearl is a years-long process that relies on the strong tides to clean and fortify the oyster and the pearl itself.
We've got here the outer lip, and then we've got here the mantle tissue. So mantle tissue is so important because it secretes nacre, and nacre is mother of pearls, okay? So we really want to protect this oyster's mantle tissue, and that's why we're constantly cleaning them, because that gives us a chance to make sure that it's nice and healthy. Then we've got here the gills, and then down the end here, we've got the abductor muscle. And this is actually so important to restaurants nowadays, because this is the part that we actually consume. So this is what we call pearl meat. It tastes very similar to abalone, if you've ever tried that before. So it's more about the texture rather than the flavour. You have to flavour it with things. So we sometimes have it on the specials board upstairs. It's cured and it has passion fruit, mango, chilli and lime with it. It's quite nice. So a bit of a delicacy. The local indigenous will eat all of the contents of the oyster, okay? Then we've got here the gonad. So this is where a cultured pearl grows, in there, okay? So what they do is they make a little incision in there and they insert a few objects, which is what I'm going to walk you through in just a moment. But that's what makes up a pinctada maxima. That a cultured pearl will grow in here, but if you were to find a pearl out in the wild, or a natural pearl, it would be growing behind the mantle tissue. 1 in 10,000 chance we'll find one behind the mantle tissue. So I'm going to cut through the abductor muscle, which is like cutting human hair, so they really don't feel it. We've got a pearl.
From our demonstration, we knew by the location of the pearl that this had been cultured. Our flight back to Broome took us back over the islands and along Cable Beach. Although there are many flight tour companies to choose from, I went with Air Kimberley and was blown away by the amazing experience I had. Their pre-tour communication was excellent. They were able to move their entire schedule around when our ship's departure was moved up 2 hours. They met me at the port. They provided a great overview of our flight before takeoff. The planes were in good condition and our pilot was both personable and professional.
Good to go. Let's go for an adventure.
Matt kept us entertained throughout the trip with history and scenic shoutouts. He was careful to fly over the Horizontal Falls from both sides so that people on either side of the plane got a great view and an opportunity to get pictures. As we were there in late November, we were not yet fully into the wet season, but we did have rain showers that we zigzagged through, and he kept the drama in the views, not the flight itself. Locally brewed ginger beer and bottles of water greeted us for our homebound flight, which was a special surprise. We were given a photo of our group from Signet Bay as a keepsake. The Kimberley is a wild, diverse area punctuated by red earth, blue seas, white sands, gorges, beaches, savannas, deserts, islands, and extreme tides. Put the Kimberley on your list and take time to explore. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this one, we think you'll enjoy others in our series on Australia. We've circumnavigated the entire continent and found something special in every port we visited. On the other side of the continent lies the city of Gladstone, where they've taken an industrial port and given visitors a slice of life.